Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and I want to do something really positive today, and I want to raise some awareness for something that isn't just a video game or some goofy story on the internet. Now, I've been on YouTube for like 10 years, and you've probably seen me cover a lot of dark sides of the internet, specifically in things like deep web browsing, where obviously, I covered red rooms, the possible existence of them. But there was a lot of things that I cut out of deep web browsing. Sometimes on those recordings, or throughout that entire experience when I was doing it regularly on a weekly basis, there were times where I was sent illegal things, okay? Now, again, I'll let you put your mind as to what illegal. Maybe it could be gore, maybe it could be anything. And generally, it was always met with, okay, better contact the police, better send them the evidence, better send them all of this chain or record, and try to move on with my life. It is incredibly emotionally distressing. Now, obviously, I chose to make content on the deep web. I get it. But what about some YouTuber that just likes to make videos on video games? Now, this is a YouTuber that I like called Super Bunnyhop, and I've been watching this guy probably since, before the deep web browsing days. I am a fan. I watch him. He covers a lot of critical close-ups of video games, Metal Gear. Now you can imagine why I watch the guy. And, he's somebody that is kind of a sporadic uploader, and he's been missing for quite a while, okay? We're talking about videos years ago, audiobooks. And then, of course, a couple days ago, I'm like, oh, he uploaded an actual review video. I watched it. And then the next one was my HOA sent me gore photos after complaining about the Airbnbs. That title alone, when it hit my phone, felt like a fucking flashbang going off. And they might be like, oh wow, big fan, you're not even subscribed. I want to address an allegation like this. I'm also not signed in. I have a virtual machine for my YouTube channel so I don't get hacked. Pro tip right there. But anyways, I wanted to see exactly how it was, and thankfully George just gets right into it without the yaponomics. Watch this.
My HOA sent me gore photos after complaining about the Airbnbs. There they are. 3 pages of gore photos, 3 pages of death threats, and 3 pages of legal threats.
Holy, I should not be laughing, but to be honest with you, I'm not even just completely talking out of my ass. This might be one of the friendliest HOA organizations that I've seen so far, unironically. Now, you might be wondering, what could have brought all of this, Muda? Why would they send this, gaming YouTuber something like this? Why would they even go? Apparently, he made a actual public comment somewhere around April 29th of 2025 this year, and it's because of this he started to actually get crazy death threats. So I wanted to read some of these death threats that he provided over here just to read, and they were a little unhinged, okay? One rando user goes, I was hired for one reason, to make sure you have a good night's sleep. I will then go back to my country, as if some dark web assassin just fucking is sending you the scariest shit possible. After that meeting, you are history, bitch! Either you leave on your own accord or we will make you leave by any means necessary. That is a promise. Are you even in the country legally? Time for you to John Pablo Escobar. This whole condominium hates your guts. Watch your back. Oh man, that is some 4chan levels of responses right over there. And of course, you can go further into this. You brought this on yourself. No one will miss you. If they can find, I assume they can find your body. It is what it is. A lot of these are kind of, labeling these individuals as possible illegal Hispanics. I don't know where that kind of comes from, but I don't really think it even matters. Whether you're legally in the country or not, the fact that gore was sent alongside what seems to be legal paperwork is distressing enough for me, okay? That's just the most unhinged shit that I've seen, probably on my entire time in YouTube. Made one complaint, and all of a sudden this guy gets it. And to be fair, Super Bunnyhop's a guy that I think is, generally a very good soul. He's a very relaxed person, okay? This guy is about as laid back, relaxed as you can imagine. When you're sending, basically Mr. Rogers on gaming YouTube shit like this, there has to be a special place in hell for you, okay? In fact, if you never believed in hell before, you probably want to start believing now, because you have to be a real unhinged evil fuck to do this in the first place. Now, again, a lot of this is an allegation, not a statement of fact. I don't want to get, I can handle legal threats, okay? But sending me actually, I can handle death threats. I can handle gore sent to my house at this point. I probably can't handle the legal threats, okay? It would just add extra stress to my life. But that's not the point of the video.
Ninth public comment made at City Hall is mentioned. And in every one, including those sent to the elderly, there was no real disclaimer nor warning about the gore photos. If you were reading through this packet, you're suddenly hit with an eyeful of emotional distress. And in a lot of contexts, doing something like that counts as a felony, so please let me get these out of my sight. So, police reports have been filed, lawyers have been contacted, and I am already well in the habit of documenting everything. Unfortunately, I gotta keep details fairly lightweight and the video short. The exact logic behind why in the world they thought this would be a good idea will be a better question answered in court.
Now, obviously, this is a good thing to do. You know, a lot of people sometimes make videos about this kind of shit when something happens, instead of going to cops and lawyers, which is, again, the dumbest thing that you can do. Generally speaking, anytime I've engaged with, cops or anytime I've retained, legal stuff, I've always completely stayed quiet on the matter. And that's, again, that's just for your safety, that's for your case's safety. And generally, once you want to expose the shitty things to the world, you can do that after your time in court. Now, obviously, lawyers are pretty expensive to hire, and George is not somebody that is, sitting on millions of dollars, okay? This is not somebody that, has made crazy life-changing money. This is just somebody that's a humble little YouTuber, and, he's got his own thing going on, but unfortunately, one of the things is he's got an elderly mom. So obviously the amount of money required to take care of your elderly parents is, again, going to be an attack on finances. And that's just a reality that many people have to live with. So he started this GoFundMe, and I know that endorsing GoFundMes can be a little bit of a hazardous guess, but honestly, I don't ever expect George of all people to be scamming people. And if he is, God, man, the world is even darker than I ever imagined. But yeah, anyways, he started this GoFundMe to help him, pay back some of the actual savings that he had to drain out, because some of the actual payments that this HOA was charging him was insane. But also he wanted to raise money just so that they could fund the lawyers in this case to fight against these fucking assholes. And of course, one thing that always blew me away too was when he actually showed some of the receipts of what this organization was charging him. Allegedly, of course.
Attempts at charging us special assessment fees, and then there was this $3,000 capital contribution bill, which is usually part of a condo's closing costs. With this sudden, unexpected spike in bills, I simply cannot make ends meet like this.
And this is a reality that I think plenty of people have to deal with. So again, regarding this organization, he led to an actual few news articles about this area. So for instance, condo owners in that area were actually afraid of losing their home because of Airbnb investors. So according to this one news article by Fox, for instance, right over here, one person says she and her other condo owner said Airbnb and other STR investors are taking over the downtown high-rises and allegedly allowing drugs, prostitution, and wild parties to run in the building. And they're forcing many of the owners out with these exorbitant homeowner association fees, which is not something, again, that really fucking shocks me. This is also the same place that's apparently getting sued by, I believe, a fire insurance company for alleged fraud. And you have to be a special type of fucking disgusting company for me to even think, you know what, in this case, the insurance guys are good. Now, obviously, the address that, George provided, this is a pretty downtown part of Atlanta, a big city, okay? This is a huge area. So, yeah, this doesn't really shock me. For anybody that doesn't know, Airbnb is probably one of the worst things to happen with big cities. If you ever wonder why the apartment you want is super duper expensive, it's probably because there's a group of assholes that come in to buy the shit out of all the apartment units they can and basically, put them out on Airbnb. Okay, short-term rentals, people come in and out. Now, obviously, this is a pretty unhinged situation that George is in, which is why I want to talk about it, because honestly, I just can't believe this happens, okay? I can't believe things can actually get so bad. Now, obviously, all this stuff will be brought up in court if it goes down that road. And the thing is, when you send allegedly gore, death threats and shit over people speaking up against terrible ownership practices, that alone should be, that should fucking ripple. That should make you at least somewhat empathetic and understandable in these situations. Now, again, obviously, buying a home is not a reality for many people. And this is going to get a little bit too real. But I have a lot of friends who, have just given up the idea of buying a house. When I ended up getting my house, to give you an idea of how expensive my place was, and I don't live in the city of Toronto, I live, on the outskirts of the GTA at that time. That house, it cost me like 700 and probably I think $10,000, something around that ballpark. Now, obviously, $710,000 is a lot of money, okay? And you have a lot of parents who are like, back when I was a kid, I ended up getting a house too. And then you look at when they had a house and like the cost of the house then, and even adjusting for inflation, it was still way less than $710,000. Now, obviously, when you're somebody young, what happens then is like you have to pay a higher down payment because you have to worry about things like mortgage insurance and all this other shit. And of course, banks, especially like A-lender banks, like tier 1 banks, probably don't want to deal with somebody super young. So you have to go to like a B lender, which fucks you in the ass even more. Okay, just the process of buying a home, you might as well bend over like this. Okay, just spread your ass and prepare to get in every conceivable way. Okay, there are fucking Thai prostitutes. Okay. All right, prostitutes in Bangkok that get less than you when buying a home. Okay, that's pretty much the grim reality. I'm sorry to say that is how it works. So you have to raise a certain amount of cash. I probably raised, I want to say, a down payment of it had to be over like 120 maybe 130,000, and that money was pretty much all the money that I had at the time, basically saved up over the course of working basically since I was 16. Like, all the money in my account just added up. A lot of money went in there, my general savings, money that I would make off YouTube, things like that. And that money immediately just went to a fucking escrow account. I ended up getting that home, but it was not only one of the most stressful things, but it really was the big moment in my life where I really felt blessed and thankful because I was in a situation where I could at least get the house. There's a lot of my friends who just have given that up because it's just, even if you're a specialist, it's fucking expensive. Now, again, the thing about homeowner associations is when you're buying a home, you can just choose not to buy in an HOA. And there's the argument for an HOA is always like, but what if you live in a gated community? You have to pay like a security guy, the gardeners and everything. And I'm like, sure, I guess that makes some sense. But when it comes to the condominium that George is talking about, that is the more realistic option of owning a property, right? Or owning some like home. Condos are significantly less than a house, and it's not so much common in Canada that you have to deal with HOAs, but if you've ever lived in America, you've probably had to at least encounter an HOA, especially when you're getting a fucking condo like this. So they have HOAs for obviously paying for, I guess, building maintenance and, people who are, working the front desk, so to speak, like salaries and shit and other expenses. But the amount of predatory expenses they're putting on him is just astronomically insane. But that's the other thing about HOAs. You basically are buying a property that is governed by somebody else. If you fail to play along with your HOA or do any of their bullshit, I believe they can put a fucking lien on your house and property, which is insane, okay? You basically are reminded every day that you don't actually own your home. I mean, seriously, even though that I bought my house, if I just stop paying fucking property taxes or anything, good luck owning the rest of your house. You are always paying off somebody in perpetuity, okay? Honest to God, the collapse, okay, the revolution, the fucking... None of that can't come sooner enough, okay? Now, obviously, I'm not somebody that's super, I don't have, this hard stance on, landowners, we have to eat the capital class or something like that. Obviously, there's a lot of factors that go into it, but there's a lot of differences between somebody that, fucking buys a home, and then maybe down the road, they buy another home, all right, when they can put it, when they've made enough money, maybe they don't buy anything really else. It's just a, late life investment for them. Or somebody doesn't want to sell a house in a really shitty market. You wouldn't force a bad financial decision on somebody, something that you wouldn't do yourself, you wouldn't force on anyone else. But there's a big difference between all I just said and then assholes that buy 20, 30 units of an apartment. There are actually people, and we call them STR investors, short-term rental investors, where they buy units of a home. Now, if you don't know anything about HOAs, they are not a democracy, okay? You actually, unironically, get more power with the more units you own. So let's say we owned, I don't know, a building of 30 units, right? I bought 20 units, and let's say, you and 10 other people or 9 other people bought the other units. So you guys represent one vote. Now, because I'm just one guy, but I own 20 of the units, I basically get to decide for everybody, all right? So realistically in this situation, there are kings, there are gods, and there are clods, okay? when you're in the homeowning game, some people who are become gods can very easily rule over the clods. Okay, and again, I don't think homes should really be like that. Like a home at the end of the day should be like a residence. I'm not gonna sit here and say like everyone is entitled to a free home or some shit like that. Okay, that's not a realistic life goal. But I think that affording a home or buying a home shouldn't be like a fucking shouldn't be like a difficult task. Shouldn't be something that is impossible for most people, all right? Especially younger individuals, okay? Somebody who's coming into a level of adulthood, somebody that's went to college that's already fucked him in the ass already, okay, with like exorbitant tuition fees. Somebody that gets into the workplace and starts off not making a shit ton of money, and then immediately on top of that, like, just the thought of owning a home is immediately impossible. It'll forever be impossible. That's insanity to me. And again, I know this is a big rant and everything, and I kind of yapped a little bit more than I needed to, but I had to get my entire words out because just the reality of this situation and how it like affects people like this. And again, George is just one person. George is actually lucky. Like his building like residents are lucky that he is a loved YouTuber, because at least he was able to speak about this, because this story happens pretty much everywhere. It really does. Even in cities where like Airbnbs and shit like this is banned, there are still so many people that find ways around like laws that we make, or provincial laws or federal laws or state laws, that they just do this kind, and they basically just keep like thumbing, they keep basically like putting these people underneath like their feet the entire time. It's actually some of the most disgusting shit that I've ever seen. And it's crazy how like, you have to go to the news and you kind of have to talk about it. Like here's George right over here. He's basically discussing this entire story to like the goddamn news. He's trying to explain how they're turning his fucking residence into an unofficial hotel. And here's the thing, it wouldn't even be like the craziest thing ever if A, they weren't allegedly charging him for no reason, but then also allegedly not have, like, the fact that gore and threats showed up as soon as he conveniently started publicly talking about this is incredibly suspect. And it's one of those things that really makes you think a lot. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about it because this is one of the wildest things that I've ever seen. And the thing about it is, like, when I talk about the scariest shit human beings, or the scariest stuff I've ever seen, it's not ghosts, it's not monsters, it's not aliens, it's not the boogeyman. It's what human beings are able to do to each other just for the sake of earning a few more bucks. Like, especially for the people that are allegedly involved in here, the HOA. I guarantee you some of the investors over there never have to worry about a dime in their life. But they also do not think, at least at all, about the people who live amongst them, that literally are just trying to make ends meet, okay? Like, it's just difficult to like, people like in that area are just living paycheck to paycheck. And even in that case, you just still don't have the sympathy to let them live instead of ruining the little tiny bit of peace they have, the square footage of place that they have to rest their mind. You still want to fucking ass fuck them in every way. It's insane. But yeah, I wanted to talk about it because I feel like it was good to raise awareness for this. And honestly, I don't think that George really needs extra awareness, but anything kind of helps. Okay, I talked about things like stop killing games. But let's just stop killing our fellow man, dude. Like, honestly, this shouldn't even be a divisive topic. Fuck Airbnb, bro. God damn.